Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin. This is Life, Liberty, and Levin. Fred Dreyer, it's a great honor.
Good to see you, Mark.
I feel like I know you.
Well, you do.
We've talked a few times.
Yes.
But no, I feel like I know you because I've watched you play football. I watched you on that great series, Hunter. I'm going to get into all this. You're not a broadcaster, and you're a conservative.
It's a deadly combination.
That's a great combination, but very interesting, your conservatism and so forth, that I want to get to. But first, I want to start from the beginning. You were a great football player. You started with the Giants for a few years. Then you go to the other coast, the L.A. Rams. You were a defensive end. Did you play any other position on
That's
the defensive line? Defensive end. You're 6'6". What was your highest? What was your heaviest?
I never played a game of football over 228 pounds.
228 pounds. Do you think you could have a lineman today who's 228? If they're fast, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Be tough.
But you would have to be on a special nickel package, I think.
Meaning very unlikely.
Well, you know the linebackers today was 6'4", 240, and they're really fast, and so I probably fit in there somewhere.
And you were really good. I remember watching the LA
thank you.
Rams. And the LA Rams were really good.
Yep.
And they never got to the Super Bowl.
Well, we did.
You never won the Super Bowl.
We got beat by Pittsburgh in
that's-
'79.
And we were talking before the program. I asked you if you have any injuries, and you're doing pretty well, and you're in good shape. You're 215. You're standing like a rod. But a lot of your colleagues aren't in such great shape. A lot of them really did get whacked pretty good with concussions. You had several concussions.
I've had about 7 of them, recorded concussions that I know of.
But it's a real problem for some of these guys, isn't it?
It's a very, very big problem, especially nowadays in college, high school, professional levels. The fundamentals and the techniques of engaging the ball carrier and bringing them to the ground is lost. If you take that out of football, you don't have football.
Now, what do you mean by that? The rules are not particularly helpful?
Well, they're not taught. You know, with the Title IX years ago in college, all the coaches just said, you guys know how to tackle. Get the guy on the ground, quit monkeying around with it, and if you can get the ball out, that's great. But we got other things to do. So they spend more time, you know, on different parts of the game than they do actually with the fundamentals and teaching you how to engage the ball carrier. They just don't do it. They don't find value in it. Well, guess what? As time and generations have changed, you've got new commissioners, you've got new coaches, you've got new owners, and the sport has changed to my amazement, you don't have any conversation with anybody associated with the sport that's legitimately concerned that you're losing the sport. If you lose the ability to engage the ball carrier and bring him to the ground, you don't have a sport. And that's what they're on the verge of doing.
So the fundamentals, like people don't talk a lot about the line. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on last Sunday, the Super Bowl. But you indicated to me before the show that game was won on the line.
That's right.
What did you mean by that?
Well, the line of scrimmage, regardless of who the receivers, the running backs, the quarterback, the coach, the owner is, regardless of where you're playing, what surface you're playing on, it all comes down to the guys at the line of scrimmage. That's where you break your opponent's will. And that's what the sport's about. I got an hour here. I'm going to break your will. And I'm going to do it by beating up your big guys. Watch. And that's what this is all about. And there's different ways of presenting it, doing it, preparing for it to have a telecast. And there's different ways of presenting the sport to a viewing public. But it's all done at the line of scrimmage. In '81, when I left the Rams, I worked the remainder of that year. I did like about 12, 13 games for CBS as a color commentator. And what my goal was, as I perceived it at that time, and it's even more true now, was I would explain to the people what I thought was going to happen, and then I'd use instant replay to back up if I was right or wrong. They don't do that. So you've got people, and Tony Romo's good, but in the Super Bowl last week, all you hear is a bunch of blabbing that doesn't fit any of the visuals that they've set up, that's available for us. They're saying great things, and because I know what they're talking about, and I'd say, okay, good, now show it. Now back it up. Come out of this commercial and back up what you said, clever, smart, informative. Back it up with the visuals so we know what you're talking about.
Let me ask you this. So the Super Bowl was won on the line. You say most of these games or big games are won on the line. A lot of coaches may not realize that. Does Belichick realize it? Obviously, he does.
If you take a look at what he did to the Rams, he had 2 weeks to work against that vaunted offense. The game came down to the line of scrimmage. Goff, quarterback for the Rams, spent half of his pass plays throwing off his back foot. He was running. He was out of sorts the whole game. And the pre-snap look that Goff was getting was confusing. He's not used to being put on his back on the ground. He ran away out of the pocket. And when you do that against a team that can run, you've got problems. And so he's a terrific young quarterback. I looked at that game as a setback for the organization, for the head coach. But he ran into a buzzsaw, and he got beat at the line of scrimmage.
Just quickly, so Belichick, one of the great coaches, whether people like him or not.
Clearly, yes.
It's obvious.
Yep.
And Brady, greatest quarterback ever?
I'm going to say probably yes.
He seems to be able to read defenses very, very fast, doesn't he?
Well, yes. And that whole sport, one of the things, Romo was a play-by-play guy. He's good. He's a quarterback. I wanted to be in Goff's head as a viewer. I wanted Romo to tell me, here's what's going on and why.
What about Brady? What was going through his head?
Well, let me just finish this one point. Goff had glazed over by the second quarter. He had a distant look in his eye. He was not self-aware, he was self-conscious.
Do we call that choking?
Well, you can put any tag you want on it, but the point was, he was punched, and he was in trouble the whole game, as was the whole team. They played good defense, the Rams. They confused Brady a little bit. And as far as Brady goes, not only is he just so sharp, he knows what he wants to do and has the ability to manipulate the defense to get what he wants.
It's remarkable. Although I must say, from my perspective, as a pedestrian viewer, it was kind of boring. But as you explain it now, the fighting going on in the trenches and so forth, that would have been an interesting, different look.
They don't show anything, Mark. They don't show you the game, and that's what's so frustrating.
What about the knee taking? There seems to be a lot less of that, and the ratings are starting to pick up because people are saying, okay, there's a lot less of that. Gladys Knight, magnificent rendition.
Yeah, she's great.
The national anthem. What about those who were taking knees before? Where do you come down on that?
Well, here's what's interesting. Kaepernick, a couple of years ago, takes a knee. If I'm the owner of the 49ers, I take the service elevator, I go down to the field, I ask him, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm protesting white police officers killing black people. I said, good. Now, leave the field, take your stuff off, wait for me till the game's over with. And here's what we'll do. We'll meet the press together. You see, it's important for the franchise to support their quarterback because that's the face of the franchise, as witnessed the Super Bowl. And what you want to make sure that you're doing is you give Kaepernick plenty of opportunity to articulate his actions. He was never interviewed after that. We never heard from him ever. We don't know what his complaint was. We heard it circuitous way, in a way that said that he was upset because there's such racism. And by the way, there was a comment made that was hilarious. And he says, we're going to kneel until someone solves this race issue. They're going to be down there a long time. So
but you would have yanked him off the field.
I would have taken him off the field and would have not let it be a spectacle. I would refuse the cameras to continually cut back to him. Get him off the field, get him out of sight, get on with the game, pay homage to your franchise and to the fans who paid a lot of money to watch that game. So the main issue is, here it is. It's up to the franchise to cultivate the quarterback for the reasons that are obvious. But you want your quarterback to be the leader of the franchise. You want him to be the titular head of the franchise. And therefore, I want my quarterback to be able to articulate specifically what he wants.
But not on the field.
Not on the field.
That's a football game.
Let's go and face the press.
You think he
after
would have
the
said
game.
That's okay?
I don't
him
know.
Off the
Who
field?
the hell knows? I think the reason he's not in football, Kaepernick is not in football, is because the league realizes he's not a leader. He didn't handle that thing worth the darn, And I felt sorry for the guy, honestly, because he's troubled by something. I wanted to hear from him. I wanted to have the organization be in control of the situation.
And I just want to be clear. But you're saying there's a place and time for everything. You can do it, but not on the football field.
Well, of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
because you'll lose the fans.
If I'm the owner, I'm going to say, Colin, how can I help you? What is it you want to say? Let's go in this room. And the press will be back to you. Have many people you wanted to talk about this. Talk about it and articulate it. He couldn't do that.
All right, when we come back, I want to talk about how you got into acting, and then I want to talk about, have you always been a conservative? What does that mean to you? How do you think the president's doing? But before we do, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to remind you to check us out on Levin TV most weeknights on Levin TV. Just go to blazetv.com/Mark to sign up, blazetv.com/Mark. Or give us a call at 844-LEVIN-TV, 844-LEVIN-TV. We'll be right back.
Once you get absorbed in it and you become proficient at it, then it's like, well, what's next? I've always been a fan of movies. One of the incidents that occurred, we were playing the Jets in Shea Stadium in '74, and we flew back to LA, and I got home very late, and I couldn't sleep, so I turned the TV on, and there it was, Gene Hackman, and I Never Sang for My Father. And I like Gene Hackman, so I said, I'll give this a look. And I said, why do I like that guy? What's he doing? More importantly, what isn't he doing?
Being assaulted by...
I was curious about the craft of acting. I had to know what it was like, so I could become curious because of that. And then I started to get into it, and I found an acting coach in Nina Foch, who became great friends. She mentored me, and it was what was great about my transition was I was still able to earn a living playing football while I was actually making the transition out of that culture into acting. And it worked out great for me. So when I left the Rams in '81 and I went out on my own, it was a daunting fact. I remember driving up the 405 freeway up to Hollywood to read for a show, and I realized, geez, this is it. I mean, this is going to be my life now. Driving up, reading for stuff, trying to get jobs. And it was exciting, but yet it was very intimidating. So I had a good acting coach. I was prepared, and it was exciting. It was new, and I got lucky. And I got a couple of shows. I made friends with the network. Network said, "Yeah, we're going to try to find something for you," and they were true to their word. And I got on Cheers, and there was a shot at me getting that job. Ted Danson got it, and he was great in it. Shelley Long, and but it was those types of things that NBC. Grant Tinker at the time, NBC said, "We've got to get this guy into a show," and it was great. I was being looked after.
So you have Hunter, starts in 1984, ends in 1991. It's a big time show, and you're Detective Sergeant Hunter, as I recall. And there was a lot of physical activity. You were chasing down criminals and all that sort of thing, and driving fast cars. And were you surprised you got it? Or were you surprised it lasted so long?
You know something, by the time, when I went out to read for it, I said, I'm this guy. And knowing it, it's just a matter of fact, if they see it or not. Sometimes they can miss it, for whatever reasons. But when I walked into those meeting rooms, I must have read for 50 people 5 times before someone said, okay.
When you say read, they hand you something and you read it in front of them?
They send you out in a corridor with all these pages, and they say, okay, get up on your stuff, and then we'll let you know when we want you to come in. And then there's actors lined up outside, mumbling through their pages. And then they call you in, and you walk in, and there's there's a room barely this size of the stage with like 30 people in it.
How do you have to memorize this stuff right there while you're standing in line?
Yeah, they call it off script.
Well, how do you do that? I mean, I don't think I could do that.
That's what you go to school for.
And so you were picked?
I was picked. And
how did you hear about that? Did they call you up, send you a note, call you in?
Well, what happened in this case was they call you, you go out and read, and then I called my agent. I said, I think I did pretty well. And I said, we'll get back to you. A couple hours later, they said, yeah, they want you to come back tomorrow. So how they start putting these shows together is once they get down to 2 or 3 people, they bring more people into the room to get a cross-section of a decision they're about to make on these 2 or 3 people. And then it just whittles it down. They brought in Brian Dennehy to play the villain. They eventually casted him in the pilot, but they brought Brian in, and we did this scene. We're both pretty big guys, and you could see, it was interesting, the physicality in the room, and of course I'm keen to that. And whether it was my football background or whatever it might be, but when you're in a room with people, if you start moving around a little bit, you can control the room,
7 years. Do you miss it? Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed the show tremendously. I mean, it really helped my life and helped, it helped my confidence going forward. I knew it wasn't a fluke. The ratings were there. The network liked me, and fans liked me, more importantly. And so I had a great opportunity there. I'm still doing stuff, but what happens, it's the same thing that happened in football. I was there 3-4 years, and then I started to want to take a look at that.
And when we come back, I want to talk about why you wanted to take a look and what that is. We'll be right back. Fred Dryer, football, acting. You're in broadcasting now. But you're conservative, which I want to explore with you. Were you always a conservative? Did you not know you were conservative? When did you decide that you wanted to be more outspoken about it?
Well, I've always been conservative. I always interpreted it or defined it as embracing truth and reason. And as I got older, I realized that,
By the way, that's Aristotle.
yes,
Truth and reason.
very good, very good. So I realized that probably of the political entities, probably the Republican Party is best for me to look to see what they're saying. It wasn't that I was eager to join, to be a part of it. I was very skeptical. I don't like joining stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I don't want to say I'm a Democrat. I talk to these people all the time. I'm a Democrat. So what? Can you think for yourself? What do you think? Give me your opinion about that. Well, we believe. Forget it. So I thought that the Republican Party might be the best place for me to find a conversation, not to get a Republican badge, to be invited to a luau someplace. So I got to the feeling that my interests politically were based on those that believed as I did. I wanted to talk to like-minded people. It's not that I have a political ebb and flow to the things I believe in. It's just that 2 and 2 is 4. It's not 5, and it won't be 5 anytime soon. So don't ask me to pretend we're going to have a conversation in group therapy with being a Republican.
So you decided you were going to be a Republican during Reagan's presidency?
It was when Reagan was governor of California. This is when I was in college. This is in 67, 68, right around that. I was attracted to him and the things he said, and the fact that he went to Cal Berkeley one day and got up on the steps of the administration and told these punks to get back to class. Once a politician now breaks the wall, of being, talking to me in a stern parental way, I have to now say, hey, oh, wait a minute, I want to hear more about what this guy has to say. And I eventually met him, and Maureen was running for office with Congress in Los Angeles. She invited me to come on down to the rally. So I did, and her dad showed up. He got out of the car and went, God, it's so great to see you. We started talking about the Rams and all the great games that we played and so forth and so on. And it was great to meet him. But for the most part, you
liked him.
I really liked him. He was common sense and reasonable, not unlike Trump. I liked Trump initially because he was common sense and reason. He was also a self-made guy. You got to be doing something to put a hole in the ground on Fifth Avenue and put a building up there. I mean, they got helicopters landing on that thing all the time and people coming in and out and all around, and that's only one building. And this guy's made a livelihood out of being able to do that. I don't see any other politician in my lifetime that has those accomplishments. And those qualify him, in my book, as being ready for the office of the presidency. Now, is he crazy? Then that's another thing. Is he rude? That's another conversation. The fact is, I don't care. I had coaches that I didn't like. I had coaches that I used to argue with. I had coaches that were competent and good, and that's the reason I played for them. Not because I liked him or agreed with everything he did or said.
Have you ever met him?
I've not met him.
I will tell you this: I've met Reagan, and I've met Trump. Mm. And while they have different approaches, they both have strong charisma, they both have principles, and they both have courage. And I think that's why so many people who liked Reagan, so many like Trump, and see the same thing. I want to pursue this with you a little bit more when we come back. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, check out my show most weeknights on Levin TV, Levin TV. You can join us by calling us at 844-LEVIN-TV, 844-LEVIN-TV, or you can contact us at blazetv.com/Mark, blazetv.com/Mark. We'll be right back. So we were talking about Reagan, Trump, similarities between the two. Obviously, they're their own men. They're different men, different backgrounds, and so I think one of the common denominators is you can tell they really love the country. They're not interested in fundamentally transforming it. President last Tuesday even took on the socialists. He said, "Not while I'm president," which was really great.
Great.
And he says things that I think a lot of people out there are thinking, but that politicians don't say,
Yeah.
which drives politicians nuts and their media friends nuts. What do you say?
Well, look, it's as if he's saying, I've got 8 years to put a building in that hole. I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to tolerate people stopping me. I know what I got to do. That building should be there. I'm putting it up there. And in order to get that building there, you have to be truthful, and you have to have reason and common sense, and you have to be factual. You have a budget, you have a time frame, and this is the job that I've accepted. This is the job that I am going to perform for the people. They elected me to do it. I'm going to do it. My issue with Donald Trump is this. He talked a lot about the swamp. Okay, he's been in office for 2 years. I've not heard any information coming back to us, to me, about what the swamp is, who's in it, what's it look like, what's the shape of it, where can I go to get information on it.
Yeah.
But here's what I wish he would do. I wish he would get Rudy Giuliani, and he would go down the hall to where Rudy Giuliani put up the dossiers of the 5 families. When he declared
The mob families, yeah.
When he declared an all-out war on the mafia families of New York, he went out and put them up. And here's what he did. This is my rookie card. Here's the format. My rookie card, there's me, and on the back, all the pertinent information. If he would put up a picture of 535 elected officials with a little bit about each one, how much money have they taken since they've been in office? Who have they taken it from? What is the lineup of how they voted? So forth and so on. And exploited who these people are. Also show the lobbyists who they are, how much money they're giving, who they in business with. Cross-pollinate 535 Republicans and Democrats. It's everybody. The swamp is Washington. Okay, here's the swamp, and this is crony capitalism. This is the crossbreeding of what has been going on. This is the big business that they hate Trump interrupting. People voted for Trump. They don't like that. The powers that be, the elites don't like the fact that Trump has a relationship with the American people that the individual parties don't. And the Clintons are finished. And if they would have hired, if Trump had hired a better attorney general who wouldn't recuse himself. By the way, he had to know he was going to recuse himself. He took the job anyway. It's really unconscionable on Sessions' part. If they would have brought in the right attorney general, he would have had people in jail by now. He would have had a 2-year head start. He would have been able to do what he should have been doing, and that is keep his word to the American people. And he's been great, Trump. He's been great keeping his word to the American people. I'll vote for him again. I think he's going to be one of the greatest presidents we've ever had, certainly in my lifetime.
And those cards will appeal to younger people, too, actually. There's got to be a way to get it out.
It's a great gag. You can imagine Rudy Giuliani in there in front of the press showing people, this is the Gambino family, here's the Casey family, and go right down the list, and they've got everything. And you got the press there, how easy it is to investigate people.
Let me ask you about that. The press really has double standards here. Are they going to investigate people who are constantly trying to push Trump out of office? Are they going to investigate people who who are constantly attacking the president, want to investigate the president and his family. There's no indication that they do. Look at this thing in Virginia. You have a guy that ran for governor. He'd been the lieutenant governor. He is the governor now. They have this yearbook with this photo with full Klansman suit, another guy's full black face. I mean, it's racist as can be. The Washington Post endorsed him for governor. Meanwhile, you have Kavanaugh. They're going back to, when he was born. What did the nurse say? Did he burp up a certain thing when he was 3 months old and everything? They're looking at his yearbooks. There's no corroboration whatsoever. So you have the media endorsing these Democrats who run for office, treat Kavanaugh and Trump completely differently. I don't see the media, cards or no cards, I don't see the media really doing a heavy-duty investigation of Trump's opponents if they think those opponents are going to be capable of hurting him or bringing him down. Do you?
Well, whether that happens or not, the point is he's done the work to put it up on the board.
For the rest of us.
And anybody can go in that room. The beauty is it's such a great, overwhelming visual aid to walk in and say, you want to know about the crony capitalism? Remember, he's talking to us. He's not trying to convince the press of anything. He's not trying to convince the press of anything. He's saying, this is what I found out. Here's the crony capitalism. This is the swamp I've been telling you people about. And here's how it basically works.
All right, folks. We'll be right back. Fred Dreyer, now you had mentioned earlier that you were attracted to the Republican Party. Reagan was governor. Reagan was president. Are you still a Republican?
No, I'm not a Republican. I have no party affiliation.
You're an independent?
I'm not even one of those guys.